This time the Quick Speed Shop, we're out here in the driveway. Look, I got the welder out. We're fixing my rusty Dodge frame rails. We got the welder. We got new steel. We got new steel behind me. Look at that. Bam. We still got holes. I don't know. We're going to get it done. We're out here real world working in the driveway in wintertime, but we're fixing up this 80 Dodge. Let's get burning and earning and weld this thing back together. All right, guys, we're back at it here at the Quick Speed Shop. I'm outside once again in the driveway. It's a couple degrees warmer than the last couple of videos, but we're still working on the black 1980 Dodge Power Wagon. But now we've got frame repair materials. My buddy Jordan from Daydreaming Fabrication made these up. They're 1/8" steel. He press broke me up some new frame rear sections. Then we got some repair sections for the front, for the outside. Then we got some boxing plates and some other boxing plates. So I think we're ready to start mapping out hole locations and doing some cutting. And we're going to attack this side first right here. You can see behind the spring hanger. If you missed it last time, I got the suspension off. And I've got new hangers, but these Dodges rot right here behind the front spring hangers. And this one's got a case of the real bads. It's actually broke on the bottom and all the way up to here. So I'm going to go ahead and check my dimensions. I've leveled the truck up here on jack stands in the driveway. And like I said in the last video, this is just a plow truck. So if you're doing a street car that's really nice, you're going to want to take better precautions or make a more substantial system to hold your junk up. But for now, we're just going to do it on jack stands right here in the driveway. So I'll reestablish level, but I've leveled it here. And then as you can see on this guy, I've got a piece of angle iron clamped to this to hold this rail up because it's loose. So here we'll go. We're still level on the bubble there, or in between the lines, I should say. Now this is kind of hard to guesstimate back here because this is kind of rotted, but it should be, whoa, it's moved. See how far that's out of whack? Something moved. Which way do we got to go? Oh, what happened? Somehow that drifted down. Hold on a minute. We might have just been on a chunk of rust. Now it's not too bad. We got to come up just a hair. About there, got to come up about 1/8". So I'll go ahead and I'll readjust my steel here. Who knows what happened, but the first thing I'm going to do, we're going to get this guy repaired so we can have the frame tied back in strong. And you can see I've taken the bump stops off, and behind them also rotted, so we'll be repairing that. But I've got some, this is all 1/8". It's hot rolled steel, but we're going to make a repair that's going to go about from the jack stand back to the kick up here. It's going to overlap on the bottom and overlap on the outside, but I'll cut all the bad part out in the middle. And then we'll weld it across the top, which is also still a little thin, but it should, once it gets up there, it should go close to the top and be all right. And then on the inside, we're going to add a 2-foot boxing plate to the inside. So it'll end up becoming box tubing through this section of the frame here to really stiffen that up. And I've had them press break up these pieces in the back. In the back, the rear frame rails are really just rotted right off. So I had them form these to slip over the frame like that. And we'll end up cutting it off up here, up by this piece of angle iron. But this is going to slip over and make a slip-on repair. But this will end up being the new frame rail here. You can see how paper pencil thin that metal is there on the edge. If you can see that. So we'll have new metal there. And yeah, a good repair for this frame. So let's start working. All right, to start right off here, we're going to start up here. We're going to fix this part of the frame first. What's that bolt for? That's just a clamp. I got to cut that guy off, but I want to get as close to this jack stand as possible because I want to, this starts to kick up here. So after I get this welded in place temporarily, I'm going to have to cut the bottom of this and roll the pan up on the bottom. But it looks like here, this jack stand is further ahead or further back than this one. So it's going to be establish your point, but there's good metal here. So this is my first point I want to get. And I'm just going to make a rough marker line so I know the extents of where we're going to be working, because I don't want to cut it short or do anything stupid. So there we go there. That's roughly the edge. I want to leave probably at least 1.5 inch overlay. So let's go ahead and let's say this is our cutting line here, and these holes, I might bump it back just a little bit so I can retain these holes. Let's cut it right here because I can bolt through them. So if we, is this thin here? Actually it is. So let's slide this back just a little bit. Let's see, so right about there is going to be the bolt, the cut line. And the one we'll form this to help fix this rail all the way back. So let's X this guy out and X this guy out. So our new cut line is going to be about here, right through that overload. And I'm going to cut here. This is kind of thin here. So I'm going to leave that right there. So we're going to cut this whole section right out right now, because like I said, I've got this piece back here holding the back of the frame up, so that's going to be fine. It's not going to go anywhere. It's still attached on the top. I've got to get it out of the way anyways, and then we'll be able to grind as much as we can, grind the rust off of the overlap here. Going to have to be is what it is. We're going to butt weld, or I guess an overlap weld, fish plate weld along the edge. And then we're also probably going to have a couple of bolts on this side, and then we'll have the bolts through for the cross member and all that stuff. But I'm going to immediately start cutting this stuff right out of the way. We got to be able to get in here and get our plate fitted up. Well, now that worked out pretty good. Let's just go ahead and peel this guy. You can see just how terrible everything is. These are all the original fuel lines to the fuel tank. This is the vent line, I think. Completely rotted away. Gone. And the other line, this is the fuel supply line, which has probably been replaced at some point. But you can see this is the bracket for the bottom of the, what do you call it here, the cross member. This thing sprung around a little bit when I cut it free. It had a little bit of tension on it, which I was surprised because it's broken so bad. Boom. These guys are all, yeah, rotted right off. Come over here. Get this guy right out of the way. All right, so now you can see what we got to work with here. Boom. We're gonna put our repair piece right in place. And actually, I can just clamp it right to the bottom of the frame like that. It doesn't need to be perfect to the original. Oh, that lays in there nice. We'll just have to do a little bit of trimming here. We'll just roll this edge up. But that fits good. Let's take the marker, and it's still thin. We're going to tie in up here right above the spring hanger. So I'm just going to put another mark. Let's see how much overlap we got underneath this. I could trim it a little bit more. Oh, actually, not a lot. It's thin there. It's where that upper part of the cross member attaches. I'm going to go ahead and cut this lower support right off it, and I'm going to make a new one eventually. But you can see here, this is still real thin here. I'll have to be careful welding it. But here, because I left this like this, I'll be able to put a couple of bolts to this hole. This is for like a box mount. On the other side, there's a bed mount that sticks out because of the fuel tank. So they punched both the sides of the frame with the same holes. So we'll use these for a couple of bolt holes to throw some bolts in it. Yeah, we're back into good metal back here on the frame. It's an 1/8 inch thick. And you could, you know, trim this down and butt weld it and then fish plate over it. But for what this truck is, going over the whole thing and doing an overlap, and I'm going to weld the inside seam before I put the boxing plate on it. So actually it'll be welded here and it'll be welded here. So I could put a couple of plug welds too, which I probably don't need to if I'm going to weld the seam both sides. But maybe we'll throw a bolt through this side too, just to, I don't know, the welding's going to fix it up. But this will easily repair this, and obviously you'll see it, but it doesn't matter for what we're doing. We obviously have cut the bad part of the frame out. And you know what I did, or didn't do? I forgot to take a dimension for the front spring hole hangers, which are here. And I guess we could put this guy back up in here. Just kind of hold it. That was a big mistake. I got carried away talking. Okay, so it looks like they're in line with these guys, with the rivets on that. So that's okay. We can just guesstimate there. I kind of wish I'd made some kind of better template. We'll do a better template on the other side. It is what it is. It's going to be close enough. So if I hold this about here, I can measure down from the top of the frame to the center of these holes, and I can drill these two holes off. They're centered up on those rivets. So we'll just drill those holes and drill the other ones in place. So that'll work. That'll work good. Let me, I'll get the dimension on that here for a second so I don't forget that. Got carried away with the internet, not paying attention to what I needed to do. This guy, probably just grind them rivets off, knock this lower brace out. We're going to leave the cross member attached. Man, there's a lot of rot under the cross member where these rivets are. It would probably make sense to knock these rivets out, because this cross member has got a ton of scale. It's pushed this way up. And if I'm going to box this, I'm going to have to do something anyways. Yeah, I'm going to end up cutting this cross member out. All right, I got the plate clamped in here. I sprayed a little of this weld-through primer, Seymour weld-through primer on the edges. I tried to wire wheel it and grind most of the rust out of where the overlap was, but this thing is so scaly and stuff, it's not going to be perfect. Like I said, this is not the way you want to do it. If you're actually going to do this, make this repair the right way, you'd have the frame sandblasted first to see where all the bad metal was, or start with a better frame. But for what we're doing, it is what it is. So I put a little weld-through primer on the plate, got all the edges ground down. I measured from the rivets down to where the bolt holes go. You can drill those later. So it's clamped in place. I think the next step is put you guys back here out of the way of the welder, and let's hit it a little bit. Give it a couple blasts with the welder here. Tack it on. Oh, great! Got to put my hood on over a winter hat. It's wonderful. Once again, we're welding outside in the wind, but this is what it is. I got the back window covered. Not that it really matters, but weld splatter will ruin glass. So I'm going to tack it probably in a couple of spots in the corners. I got this clamp here. I'll put a couple of tacks along the top, and then we'll be good. Actually, I re-leveled the back of the frame. That's level as well. Actually, I'm going to tack this, and then I'll double check it. Can I see it from here? Yeah, it's level. So I re-leveled the back of the frame, so we're all good there. That's what you want to do, is check that. But let's go ahead and see if it'll tack. Oh yeah. I'm gonna burn her hot. I got it set to 3/16. This is just 1/8 inch, but I want to burn it hot in here. There's gonna be some impurities because we're welding onto rusty junk, and it is what it is. And I'm welding outside too. It's actually not looking too bad. It's burning in there pretty good, but it just blew back on my tip. Let's get a tack up here. Actually, it's not doing too bad. Ooh, it smells like burning weld-through primer and combined with rust. But I'm confident in my ability to do something here. Let's push this guy in a little bit. we're welding, the outside of the frame is kind of all over the place because of the rust pits. The wet metal is a little, not real flat, but I'm kind of filling in a hole here too. Ooh, nice. Yeah, this is gonna work out good. See, now that doesn't look too bad. Over the top here, you see there's a little bit of a gap, but that's just because the frame not around the red edge of the roll. I'm just gonna fill that right full of weld and then blend it with the grinder. But yeah, it's gonna be all right. We're gonna have a decent repair, and then I'm gonna weld it on the inside gaps here too, on the inside of the plate, and then this thing will get boxed. So I think I'll just, it looks good. I don't see any reason not to burn it right on right now, just to get it out of the way. And I'll do little bits and pieces and go from there. Maybe I'll weld a little bit and I'll lay out my holes and get them drilled. Let me check my level. Yep, it's good. Now this should have made the frame not want to flex at all. Oh yeah, I can't even budge it. It's right there where it's got to be. I can't even pick it up because now the weight, I would have to pick the weight of the truck up. Before, the frame just flexed up and down like a little piece of, you know, tin foil because it was only attached right here. But now it's fully attached, so we're good. Took a little cooling off time to get the spring hanger bolted up, and I just realized when I boxed the inside of the frame, my boxing plate, I'm not going to be able to reach the bolts to bolt this on. So what I think I'm going to do is bolt it on with the bolts facing out this way and tighten it down where it's got to be, and then I'm going to tack weld the bolts to the inside of this plate here to hold them, and then that'll do what it is. These are the bolts that came with the kit. They're 7/16 bolts. And what I have to do right now is remove this because you need room for the spring hanger bolt to go inside the frame. There's like 1.25 inches or something like that hole drilled in the original frame rails for the bolt, actually the bolt head, I think, to go through, because they put the bolts in from the inside. I'm going to put the bolts through from the outside and put the nut down in here, but there's still going to need to be room for the center of the bolt to go into the frame. So you saw me on the time lapse, I drilled a starter hole for that. I'm going to get a hole saw and make like a, I don't know, 1-inch hole, something like that here. And I think that's why the frame's rotted. Originally, you know, these are flush to the frame and had the frame hole, and debris would get down in here and sit here, go into the hole, get trapped by the cross member, rot the inside of the frame here, rot it out here, rot it all around. Just you know, a poor design. And you also see that I raised I originally measured down about 2 inches. It's actually like 1 7/8 down from the top of the frame. I double checked over there, and I checked my position from here to the first bolt, so I know I'm good there. But I raised them up to 1 3/4 from the top of the frame down just so I get a little bit more meat down here to the bottom of the frame. Originally, you know, they were riveted on, so the rivets aren't very thick, but I got to have room for the bolt heads and stuff like that. So I did that, and that looks good. But I think I can go ahead and we'll hole saw this. I'll hole saw this. I'll tack these bolts in from the back side, and then they'll be locked in good. I've gone and welded all the way down here. It came out pretty good. I welded downhill, which is whatever it is. It is very little porosity on the back here because of the extreme amount of rust. On this side, it looks good. And I'll fill this here. I'll just grind this over on the inside. I started burning on the inside a little bit. That's good. You know, so we'll have an overlap of, I don't know, inch and a quarter on either side, plus the overlap up here, and then a little bit of overlap down here, and then I box the inside. It'll be fine. It's gonna be, you know, probably stronger than the original C-channel by the time we get done and turn it into a box. And the boxing plates are longer. They'll span a little bit farther from the repair. So, you know, in all honesty, if this was a good frame repair, like if you wanted to put this on the street, as long as you had sandblasted the frame ahead of time and got all the rust off of it, and did this and ground it all smooth and overlapped it, and had plug welds or bolt holes or whatever, and overlapped it and boxed it on the inside, or fish plated or whatever, this would be plenty strong enough for any street truck. It's, you know, you got an 1/8 to a 3/16 frame here. We got 1/8 here. We're going to box it on the inside. It's going to be, you know, as good as most people running around in 50-year-old trucks, you know, a little bit of surface rust on them. This will be as strong, so it'll be plenty for my plow truck action. But it's looking good. This gives a brand new firm mount for the spring hangers. I'll have new spring hangers on there, ready to go. So just let me do that. I'm going to turn the camera off and let it warm back up because it's a little chilly out here. And I'll just get these bolts tacked in. We'll leave them sticking out, and I'll continue welding the rest of this on here. Okay, it's a little while later. As you can see by out back behind me, it's dark. But I've been making progress out here under the lights. This side, this guy's all ground down and cleaned up. I went and just grounded over, rounded the edges there, and then wire wheeled the welds to get all the scale off. And I took and I pie cut the bottom of it and rolled it up and attached it to the bottom of the frame there, so it's down. And the spring hanger is just bolted on there with temporary nuts. I'm going to take it back off, and I'm going to hit this steel plate with some rust encapsulator from Eastwood, which I'm going to end up painting the entire frame with eventually. But I want to get behind it on the bare steel before we bolt the hanger on permanently. And here's the section of frame that came off there. You can see the bottom mount for the cross member completely rotted away, and it was getting real thin by that spring hole and the braces, and I think it was starting to come through. Well, you can see it's down like paper thin, and it was about ready to break right there by the emergency brake bracket. So that guy can go over there in the scrap, but this is all welded up nice, and same thing, I ground it down and wire wheeled the welds and rolled the edge up there, so that's all good in the hood. And drilled my hole for the what do you call it, the bolt. And I also have I have to drill the 2 holes for the bed mount, which bolts on this side here. I got some rust encapsulator on that in the garage drying, but that'll bolt on here. But it looks good. The rails are still level up on there on the level. Everything's good with that. What I think I'm going to do is I had Jordan cut out some 12-inch boxing plates just to have extra plates here. And what I think I'm going to do, how can I show this so you can see it with the light? What I think I'm going to do is use these plates and trim them down and box in here over the archway, because, ow, that was my leg. Oh, that's going to leave a bruise. Because here, I've got to fix this here, and you can see here, especially the contrast of having the light shine across it, this is severely pitted here in the bottom and the top. The whole thing is pitted. So what I'll do is I'll box 12 inches of the inside of this, and I'm going to cut out and flush mount, install a piece of plate here and fix this. But we'll have a box section on the inside to double up the action here. On both sides we'll do it 12 inches, and then I think I am going to add a stiffener I don't know, a piece of like square tubing. I think I'm trying to come all the way back here to here, go under here, tie into this, and then go and tie into the boxing plates. Just put some more structure in here. Not that this truck, I mean, it's a half ton. And it's you know, like I've been saying, it's a half ton truck. It's just going to be a plow truck. It's just going to be off the road, so it's not going to take a lot to strengthen the frame enough to use for me. But you know, a little extra action's better than nothing. And tomorrow when it gets daylight again, we're going to have to cut this free because my new rear frame sections slip over the frame. This is taking a lot longer than I thought, and I missed out on some good weather this morning. I was monkeying around in the house, and I should have come out here and had another couple hours because it's only like 6 o'clock now, but it's pitch black and the temperature dropped. It was in the 40s today, but now it is cold, probably in the mid 30s. So not really enjoying working out here in the driveway here in the winter time ish, but got to do what we got to do. But this is super strong now. It's, you know, fixed up really nice. So we'll push there, and then we'll push there, and we'll have mostly new frame rails in the back. All right, it's the next day here. I had assembled a tent because it's been raining on and off a little bit here. But you can see last night I got my gray, what do you call it? The stuff from Eastwood. It is the rust encapsulator. I sprayed just on here. Luckily I did, so I didn't get rust from the rain overnight or sprinkles. But I've got the spring hangers bolted on. I sprayed a little black encapsulator on there, and I put fluid film, brushed it onto the back surface of this. So it's got fluid film between the two surfaces of metal, so that'll help keep rust from happening between the if there's any bare metal in there. So both those guys are locked on. I drilled the holes for the bed mount here. Just got to bolt that back on. But I've moved on to the back here, and we're going to start working on replacing the rear section of rail. You can see I've already got it cut loose of the cross member here, and I cut the rivets off, and got the top of this plate off here. I was going to, this new rail here, you see here, slips over the outside of the rail, and I was going to attach it to this, but there was a lot of rust between here and here, so I took that off. Now I'm even questioning why even bother using this original cross member. It's riveted up so it's short on the bottom and the top. Now I could like drill through and try to plug weld to the rivets or something like that, maybe. I don't know if that's a good idea. But it is scaly. It's a piece of sheet metal, 1/8" sheet metal stamped here. All it is providing, you know, structure for the back and support for the shock member. But what if I make just a new one once I put my new tails on, which are going to come all the way up into here? What if I just weld a new piece of tubing or something across there, then weld a couple pieces of the tubing up in here? So I'm thinking about just ditching this guy altogether, or modifying it to attach to the new steel somehow, because it's short. See here, it's got a gap. It didn't actually go all the way in. It was just kind of riveted in space. So, you know, it's not going to touch my new rails unless I move it around or change it around a little bit. So I'm thinking about what to do about that. But the new rail here is going to slip over right about till there. Oops. Right about up into here. What am I doing here? Boom. And I've got that's my cut mark there. I got my bolt holes marked. I've got to put a couple of holes in the top of it for the body mount bolts for the bed. And then I have the dimensions for the other side. I haven't cut the other side. I'm going to measure back. Oh shoot, it's going to be hard to... actually, I can just measure from the other side. So we're doing one side at a time, just like that. I got to measure down for my rivets for the spring hanger, and the rivets were in line with this, and it's down probably like 1 7/8 inches or whatever, just like it was on the front. I haven't measured it yet, but that's going to be my new point of measurement. So I'll get this out of the way, and then I'll actually probably measure from the rivet up to one of these location bolts here, because this cross member is loose and has moved a little bit. So I'll get a more precise location there, and I'll come down and I'll drill it, and I'll hang the hanger, and then I'm just kind of place it in place. You know, you got room with the shackles and stuff, so it's not 100% critical to where it's got to be within 1/8 inch. It'll be fine. My rails are still level. Everything's checked out good there. I did have it, once I put it down, I had this rail clamped up on my angle iron, and I let it down. It had actually dropped about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch. So I just pie cut the top of that rail, which was a little high compared to this one, and I widened the gap up a little bit and I welded it back together. And that's fine because I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna box those on the inside and plate them on the outside where the rust holes are. So I just adjusted my rail tails. I mean, the rail could have been tweaked, could have been not be perfect from the factory, but I'm just trying to get everything to stay level so it doesn't get away from me. So I just made a tiny little pie cut over there, went boop, and just rail back down so they are parallel again. Real easy to adjust it, and that's fine. On frame cars, especially these trucks, these frames are all super flexible. Like you drive an old truck and go off-road and frames twist all over the place. So I know I got it level here. I just want to keep it level back here. So at least once I weld it all back together, it'll be level. And then it can, you know, the springs might be crooked, the truck might be crooked, the axle could be bent, who knows. So it could sit crooked when it gets done, but I'm trying to do everything I can to keep the frame level while I work on it. And if you're doing this, like I said, in the real world, you'd be in on the concrete in there. You could make some arms or some kind of jig, and you'd bolt the rails to the floor, get it all locked up nice so it didn't move while you're doing a lot of welding on it. That would be the right thing to do. We're out here just, you know, putting a plow truck together, so it doesn't really matter. But let me get this guy cut off, and then we'll slip this new rail on and get it kind of in place where it's got to go. Well, as you can hear on the tent, rain has returned, but don't worry, we're still working. So I've got this rail on here and I got it tacked in. There's the old one here on the ground. And what I think I might do is take this out later. I was thinking about it, and knock the rivets out, clean up the edges, and then just bolt it here up against the bottom of this rail, and I'll add a spacer to the bottom, like a 1/4 inch spacer, and bolt down through there, and then bolt this original. Man, it's coming down. Oh no, it's hailing. Look at the hail. Or maybe that's frozen snow, I don't know. Great. Anyways, I got this leveled out here. Oh my God, it's loud. I got this leveled out here. We're good on the level. I added a piece of 1/8 inch plate on top of the frame rail because this guy is on top of the original frame rail height, so it's up an 1/8 inch. If I hadn't done that, I would have had it leveled it out. It wouldn't have been not level. So this is level to the original rail. It's just an 1/8 inch higher. And I've got it tacked in a few places. It's also, the frame rails are 38 inches across. And luckily this is not twisted this side. The other side, the frame rail was twisted, but I was able to get a good 38 inch dimension off the corner here. So I'm good on my tails. So it looks like everything's good that way. It's tacked in place. It's not going to go anywhere. So I think I'm going to, before I cut the other side off, I want to drill all my holes to get everything located on this side. I'm actually going to use this locating hole here in the frame. There's one on each side over there. You see that one? And I'll use that in my locating holes. I'll measure back from that side to that side to get my body mounts holes cut in. And then also measure for the first bolt for the spring hanger here. Probably drill all this out, get the hanger holes all drilled in it before I permanently weld it. I think that's better. Get one side all dialed in, then cut the other side free. So I've still always got one side to be a template to see what's going on, because I can measure like my first rivet hole here. I can measure up to like this locating hole here, should be the same on the frame on both sides, so I can measure off like the edge of that hole to the center of this rivet, and then get my first hole over there. But I can see on the inside, I sprayed the weld through primer on the edge. I ground all the rust off the best I could and wire wheeled it there on the overlap, and then I sprayed the weld through primer on both pieces, so that's kind of coated, but she's good to go there. And we're going to end up with a patchwork of new panels and pieces all along this frame, but it's what you got to do when you got junk to work with. And look how thin this is. Anyways, when we plate this and box it, this will, like I said, this is a plow truck. It's going to be fine. It's snowing on me or icing on me, whatever. It's going to be fine. It is what it is, but, you know, we're doing rusty frame repairs, and it's coming out better than I expected. All right, well, there we go. That wasn't too bad. I've got the hanger bolted on here just temporarily, and you can see the bolts are staggered. These rock, they actually lean back where they mount, and the 6 holes are so you can rock it either way. And originally how this is riveted to the frame was, you know, the 2 upper rivet holes here, then the 2 longer rivet holes there. When I put these on my brown 80 Dodge, because it's a 3/4 ton truck, I actually drilled out this hole in the back and I put another bolt in it here. And actually you could drill this one out on this frame because it's a little bit taller. On the original frame that doesn't quite reach to have a rivet down here. But for what this truck is, 4 bolts is fine. I'm not going to go ahead and put 5 in it. It doesn't really matter. I took the hole saw and I drilled 3/4 inch holes in the top of the frame rails for the bed mounts. They get a 3/8 bolt up through the frame into the bed. So there's room for play in there. Obviously, since this slipped over the original rail, the bed's going to be up an 1/8 inch in the back, but it was on an 1/8 inch shim in the front, and honestly, it's not going to matter. You're not going to see it. The cab is super wonky, and the bed, I actually got to fix one of the cab mounts, is rotted right off the truck, so it's going to be is what it is. But this is looking good here. I am going to take this out. This piece out here, I'm going to clean it up, knock the rivets out, and I'm going to hold it up, and I'm going to drill through here. We'll put 2 bolts through the top of the frame to bolt this guy up to the top of the frame here, and then in the bottom I'll knock the rivet out, and it's going to end up with about a 1/4 inch gap. I'll just get a spacer of some sort and space out the bottom of it here and put a bolt through that, and then this guy will bolt back in. And it actually is got a webbing on it, so it gives strength to the top and the bottom of the frame, so the frame can't twist with the spring hanger. So you need something spread like this to be able to do that. So that'll be fine, and I'll drill the bolt holes right to whatever the diameter the rivets are. I use the right bolts so there won't be slopping a hole, so this thing can't flex. Well, I think I also want to put a receiver hitch of some sort on the bottom of this. I've got a couple old receivers out back, so I can either go out and see if something will bolt on. Here, I think on my brown Dodge, I used a Super Duty, like a Ford Super Duty, I think it was off 2010 hitch, and I had to extend the inside of the frame with some plate to make it, because it was just a little bit narrower for the bolt holes. For this, I probably won't do that. I've got an older one. We'll make it fit however we got to make it fit. We'll bolt it and or weld it right to the frame, just to get just so I have the ability to put a receiver on this truck so I can use it to move things around in the driveway and stuff like that. But yeah, this is going to come out awesome. My level is still good here on the end, so I can go probably and weld this all together. I'll probably wait. I'm probably going to cut the other side off. I have to eat lunch as well, so I'll probably do that off camera, just double up the other side, do the same thing. Let's go ahead and bang that guy out, and then we're going to box the inside of the hoop here, the archway. We're going to box that next to stiffen that up, and then replace the rust in there, and then all the rust repair will be done, and then I'll just box the front of the frame after that. All right, guys, I've jumped ahead a couple hours. You can see it's dark. I've been battling rain and stuff, but let's take a look. Bam! I've got both sides in the back completely finished now. I showed you the one side. I just duplicated on this side, got the spring hanger mounted up. But I want to show you here, I did get the rear cross member. I did end up reusing it. I took it out like I said I was going to do, and I took out the rivets and I drilled them out to 7/16, and I bolted 2 bolts in there. And then I used a nut here, 1/2 inch nut, to make a spacer to take up the gap, and bolted it down through the frame. So that's good on both sides. We got our spring hangers bolted up, and the frame rails are level. They're nice and tight. Everything's good to go here, and that looks good. I got the holes drilled for the box mount. Man, look at that, brand new rear rails. Then up here in the front, I still haven't had time, and I'm going to run out of time in this video, but my next plan is to box the inside of these curves and then repair the outside. That'll be the last step of the frame repair. You can see I've removed the front cross member here, and I've added some boxing plates over here on both sides. They just tied the top of the frame down to the bottom of the frame where I did the repair, and they are welded in. I didn't fully weld them. I just did like every other inch, because that's fine. And the new cross member I'm going to make is going to weld to those boxing plates and tie everything together nice. Come around over here, you can see I put the box mount back on there, and we're good to go. Both sides are bolted on with the the new supplied bolts for the ATS spring hangers. The bolts should have gone to the inside if you're doing it doing a good repair, but because I had the boxing plates, I had to put the bolts out. I'm going to have to end up taking this last bolt and cutting the threads off because I think it's going to be in the way of the leaf spring, but the other ones are going to be fine sticking out like that. But here's the boxing plate on the inside. You'll notice that it's got a notch out of the front of it. That's because I need to get to that bolt hole right there. On top of the frame is for the bed bolt, and I need to get my hand in a socket in there, so I notched the what do you call it, the boxing plate down around there, and you can see the edge of the frame is pretty thin there. I kind of wish I was able to get on it and box it all the way, but it's all I could do to make it work. I might cut a big piece of flat stock and make like a bridge to go under there just to span some of the gap. I don't know, but the frame, you can see how pitted it is with the looking across it with this angle. You can see it's really thin on top. So these boxing plates are going to help out, make it a ton stronger. And then, like I said, I'll probably make it a cross member out either 2-inch square tubing or something. I'm going to weld it, just butt weld it right to the plates, and probably put a little triangle down here to help, because this is your twist action for your spring hangers. I'll see if I can show it to you. You can see how they flex around. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but they flex a little bit because right now there's nothing to keep it going. And when you put the load on the springs, it's going to want to flex away. So it needs a lower mount tied up to the kind of like made like a K. So if I weld I might even, depending on where the exhaust is here hanging, I might move the cross member down a little bit and kind of reverse it. It's never going to hit the drive shaft. This truck's got such a high suspension lift that the drive shaft is way far away from the frame. Even though we got the rear end drop down a little bit, it's never going to be in the way. But I'll make some kind of triangle mount to grab the bottom of those spring hangers so they don't flex. That's why this one is made like it is. The lower mount keeps the bottom of the frame from flexing from the rear spring hangers. And I went out to my stash right here. See that? Got a receiver hitch. That's right, I've been stashing stuff. What's my motto? Don't trash it when you can stash it. And I've been stashing this receiver. I don't even know what it came off of. A little rusty, surface rust, but it is the perfect width to fit right under the frame rails. It's the right distance to hang out from under the bumper. So I'll be bolting that guy on. I'm just going to clamp it up and drill some holes here and bolt it right on. And that'll be perfect to have a receiver in the back. And in the next video, we're going to have to repair the spring mounts. You can see how nasty that is, caved right in. I do have new ones, but I don't want to waste them on this truck, so I'm going to just beat that back into shape and then cut a new top for it, make a new top out of this 3/16 or 1/8 inch, whatever it is, steel here. I'm going to weld a new top on it with a new locating hole on both sides. Actually, I'm going to fix that, so that fix that up. And next time we'll do that, and we'll hang the springs back in here and put the lifting blocks on. And in the meantime, I've got to go to the spring store and get some U-bolts because the original U-bolts are junk, and it's coming up on Thanksgiving week, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that or not, but we'll see how it goes. But in the meantime, made some really good progress in this video. I got to shut it down because it's getting late out here, but let's step back and take a look. We've repaired the whole front section of the frame and the rear section of the frame, and I've been checking it the whole time. It is perfectly level now. Everything's good, and you can really tell the difference between new metal versus pitted nasty metal. But when we do that repair there over the top of the axle, it'll be good. And then I kind of talked about maybe taking some kind of bracketry and welding it in the center there when I do the inner boxing plate here. We'll see. I might take a piece of tubing that spans like this cross member to that boxing plate to that boxing plate, or cross member to cross member. I'm not sure. I could go right from the shot cross member to that front cross member, and that would hold the whole back of the truck up. So maybe I'll do that. I can weld right into here, clean up the side, weld a piece of like 2-inch square tubing into that, and then go down and tie into the new cross member. That would probably make the most sense, and maybe stage it like 2 inches off the inside of the frame here to get a little extra action, and that would take all the support, add support to that, and really beef it up. But for what we're doing, I think it's fine. Like, it's super strong now. It doesn't flex around at all, and that's even with the big hole in the side of it. It's really a lot, way stronger than it was. I just want a little extra because this metal is so thin and pitted. To have an extra member tying this to that and add an extra support in the middle, it's not going to hurt it. So I'll do that as well. But for now, I got to get some rust encapsulator, hit these bare metal pieces before I go in, because it tends to rain every other day now because it's fall, or late fall, early winter. And yeah, a long one today fabricating. I've been out here 2 days straight in the driveway in the weather, welding and cutting and grinding away, and it takes a lot longer than it looks like on camera. So I appreciate everybody watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for the alerts, leave a comment, and we'll see you next time working on the old Dodge in the driveway. Or maybe I'll sand some body filler and work on painting the doors on my C10. I don't know. I kind of like fabricating, and I'm kind of under the gun of the weather with the paint in there, but I'm also under the gun out here. I don't want to be working on this truck in the snow when it's 10 degrees out. So if I can get this back together, get the cab mounts fixed, then we can put the box back on and start playing around fixing up the cab. It's a fun little side project in the driveway because I didn't have enough stuff to do. So thanks for watching. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next time here, slaving away in the driveway and in the shop. 2 locations for the price of 1 at the Quick Speed Shop.